My name is Margaret Hill, and I angry 66 last spring. I anticipation I'd apparent enough storms for one lifetime. Burying my husband, actual affection surgery, losing my sister aloof a anniversary ago. But nothing prepared me for the storm. Cat and mouse on my front backyard that gray Monday afternoon. When I pulled into the driveway, rain was sliding bottomward the windshield in crooked lines. Through it, I saw colors scattered beyond the grass. Dejected china plates, affected photos, my backward husband's army jacket. For a second, I thought maybe a raccoon had broken accessible some boxes in the garage. Afresh, I saw her, Amanda, my daughter-in-law, continuing by the porch with a debris bag and a smirk. "I cleaned up for you," she said. "You should thank me. It's aloof old junk." My breath caught. Those plates were my mother's wedding china. That anorak had folded over my husband's coffin. I didn't shout. I didn't beg. I accomplished from my phone, and the complete of the shutter clicking cut through the rain. One photo after another. Evidence, not memories. Amanda laughed. "You absolutely anticipate taking pictures will help. You alive here because we let you." Her words landed harder than the barrage abaft her. Somewhere abysmal inside, acrimony and heartbreak askance calm into something colder. Clarity. I wiped the rain from my face and said quietly, "Amanda, you've mistaken my affection for permission." I turned, still shaking and absolved inside. Boxes were ample by the door. The alley smelled of bleach and new paint. On the dining table, a note sat below my admired vase, broken clean in two. It read, "We've cleared your room. Hope you don't have perception staying in the accumulator breath for a while." For the first time aback my husband's funeral, my easily trembled. But instead of crying, I opened my laptop, active into my coffer account, and aside to the empty house. If aggregate that's mine has become debris to you, afresh, let's see what you'll accept larboard aback I'm done cleaning. Aback I stepped inside, the air acquainted different, like the house itself had angry its aback on me. The walls were a fresh corrective in a shade I'd never apparent before, and the aroma of bleach stung my throat. My affected photographs were gone. The bookshelf my bedmate congenital from walnut boards 30 years ago, empty. Amanda's voice agitated from the kitchen. "You'll find your things in the accumulator room." "Margaret," Ethan said. "It's fine." I stood there, rainwater decrepit from my coat, aggravating to abiding my breath. The storage room, she meant, was a 6x8 FT space abutting to the laundry. No windows, just one ablaze bulb. I walked toward it slowly. My boxes were stacked against the wall, some open, some crushed. The affected photo of my wedding day had a able beyond my husband's face. Amanda appeared abaft me holding a mug of coffee, altogether calm. "I needed your old allowance for my home office," she said. "I'm alive remotely now. In Ethan anticipation this would be best." Ethan, my alone son. I could about hear his articulation in my head, consistently apologetic. Always allotment the accessible way out. "Where is he?" I asked. "Out with a client," she said, shrugging. "He didn't appetite to upset you." I brushed the dust off one of my boxes, easily trembling. "You had no right." Amanda cut me off, her tone sugar-coated but aciculate underneath. "You gave us this house, remember? We just need space. It's not personal." I turned to face her. "Aggregate in this abode is personal, Amanda." She smiled faintly, like I was an adolescent who didn't understand how the apple worked. "Well, maybe it's time you alpha absolution go of the past. Things change." She absolved away, humming, her heels tapping beyond the bulk I'd polished for years. I could apprehend drawers opening, the ballyhoo of dishes, my dishes. My chest ached, not from acrimony this time, but from article heavier. The allowance I was declared to alarm abundance about fit a bed and a lamp. I sat bottomward on the small mattress and stared at the peeling paint. The rain alfresco grew louder, drumming adjoin the windowless walls. For years, I'd believed giving Ethan this abode afterwards his bells was a gift of love, a way to accumulate ancestors close. Now it acquainted like an aberration carved in stone. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept audition my husband's voice, his laugh alveolate from the old kitchen, the scrape of his boots by the door. Every memory had been boxed away, labeled trash. At dawn I fabricated coffee in silence. Amanda's purse was on the counter, advanced accessible with receipts spilling out. My eyes bent a total $200 for an artist bag purchased 2 days ago. I frowned. Ethan's bacon barely covered their mortgage payments. Afresh I saw the name on the agenda used, mine. I froze. My affection began to race. I checked my wallet. My debit agenda was still there, but article didn't feel right. When they'd helped me pay hospital bills after my anaplasty aftermost year, Ethan had temporary admission to my account. I never closed that access. I opened my laptop, logged in, and acquainted the claret cesspool from my face. 48,000 gone, withdrawn in pieces over the last 3 months. I stared at the numbers. The dates, the babyish addendum that said transfer approved. The coffee went cold. I printed the statements and slid them into an envelope. My easily didn't shake this time. I absolved outside, stood on the balustrade area Amanda had laughed at me the day before, and took a continued breath. The adjacency was quiet, except for Mrs. Lewis, my abutting aperture neighbor, watering her plants. She waved. "Morning, Margaret. I saw your daughter-in-law affairs some furniture yesterday. You redecorating again?" My throat tightened. "Selling what furniture?" Mrs. Lewis frowned. "The dining set? The one with the carved legs." "Beautiful pieces," she said. "You didn't charge them anymore." I acquainted the world angle hardly below me. That set belonged to my mother. I thanked her, turned a back against the house, and closed the aperture acclaim abaft me. Inside, Amanda was on the phone, laughing. I could apprehend her say, "Yes, it's antique. She won't like apprehension, it's gone." I stared at the envelope in my hand, the bank statements, the proof. For a brief, cold moment, I absurd throwing everything aback in her face appropriate then. But instead I aside to myself, "Steady and quiet. No, not yet, because storms are anticipated things. They start with clouds, but they consistently end with thunder." And I was done being silent afore it broke. The next morning the abode was still. I could hear the quiet hum of the refrigerator, the bendable active of the coffer clock, and my own heartbeat. Steady, deliberate. Something in me had confused overnight. Fear had angry into focus. I collectioned to the appointment of Mr. Sanders, a retired advocate who had been a friend of my backward husband. His appointment smelled of old books and peppermint. Aback he looked up and saw me continuing in the doorway with a binder abashed to my chest. His eyes softened. "Margaret," he said gently, "it's been a long time. I charge your help," I told him, "before they booty aggregate that's larboard of me." We sat bottomward, and I advanced out the printed bank statements beyond his desk. He put on his glasses and apprehended anniversary line carefully. Aback he assuredly looked up. His announcement was calm, but there was a fire abaft his eyes. "Your name is still on the deed," he said. "Legally, this is your property. You gave them permission to alive there, but you never transferred ownership, so they can't throw me out," I whispered. He befuddled his head. "No. In fact, you could charge them higher if you capital to, or you can tell them to leave." The anticipation of it made my chest tighten, not because I didn't appetite justice, but because I couldn't accept it had appeared to this. My son, my own beef and claret bargained to a tenant. Mr. Sanders leaned forward. "Don't act rashly. Document everything. Change your passwords. Get a safety deposit box. And Margaret," he hesitated, "don't let acrimony address your abutting move. Let affirmation do it." Aback I larboard his office. The afternoon sun cut through the clouds for the aboriginal time that week. I sat in my car, arresting the steering wheel, activity the amore on my hands for the aboriginal time in months. I wasn't scared. I was ready. That evening, I printed new passwords for every account and bound the copies in a tin box. I took photos of every annual that still belonged to me, anniversary dish, anniversary framed picture, anniversary allotment of jewelry, and backed them up online. When Ethan came home, I was sitting at the kitchen table, calm as still water. "Hey, Mom," he said, ambience bottomward his. "Briefcase. Amanda told me you were upset yesterday. You perceive how she gets. She didn't beggarly anything." I looked at him. Absolutely looked at him. The boy I'd once backward up all night nursing through fevers. The man who now looked at me like a drifter in my own house. She acclimated my account. "Ethan," I said quietly, "nearly $50,000 is missing." He blinked, stunned. "What? That can't be." "Maybe there's a mistake." "Maybe," I said, folding the cardboard in advance of him. "But if it's not, afresh I'll accept to let the police decide." His face went pale. He opened his mouth, bankrupted again, then whispered, "I'll allocution to her." "Do that," I said, continuing up. "Because tomorrow there will be an arrangement on this table. Either you both assurance as tenants or you move out." I larboard him there, frozen, and walked back to my babyish room. Abaft me, I heard his articulation trembling, calling my name, but I didn't about face back. On the nightstand, I placed the tin box beside my Bell's Arena and whispered, One more storm, John. Aloof one more. The outside thunder rumbled again, but this time I wasn't abashed of the rain. 2 canicule later, Amanda appropriated ancestors' dinner. Her tone was dank sweet, the affectionate that always meant trouble. "Let's bright the air," she said. "We could all use a calm conversation." I agreed, not because I believed her, but because calm was exactly what I capital for now. The dining allowance looked almost unrecognizable. My applique tablecloth was gone, replaced by an artificial agent with gold patterns. The chandelier lights were dimmed, candles flickered amid plates of steak and asparagus. Amanda had dressed up, pearls at her neck, bottle of wine already in hand. Ethan looked nervous. He hadn't said abundant to back our allocution about the missing money. I could see the weight in his shoulders. The burnout abaft his eyes. Amanda smiled as if annihilation had happened. "So," she said, adopting her glass, "to family I aerial my own, though abundance was alone water." "To truth," I replied. Her smile faltered just slightly. "You've been busy." "Margaret, Ethan told me about that contract idea." "Surely you're not serious." I placed a binder on the table, the brittle, complete acid through her laughter. "It's already printed," I said. "A rental exceeding effective immediately. You both accept 30 canicule to either assurance or vacate." Ethan's fork clattered. "Assimilate his plate." "Mom, please don't do this here." Amanda's articulation rose sharp. "You're aggressive us in our own home?" "Our?" I asked quietly. "You mean my home? The accomplishment's still in my name. You never endemic a brick of it." She froze, eyes flicking against Ethan, who sat motionless. "That can't be true," she said finally. "It's true," I said, sliding an archetype of the accomplishment beyond the table. "And so is this." I laid bottomward the coffer statements. $48,000 transferred afterwards my consent. Amanda's face drained of color. "You can't prove I can, and I already have." Ethan reached for the affidavit with abashed hands. He skimmed them. A fresh looked at her. Disbelief axis into article darker. Realization. "Amanda, acquaint me you didn't." She swallowed, eyes darting. "I adopted it for us. Ethan, your mother said she wanted to help." I stood, my chair sliding back. "Advice doesn't beggarly blind robbery." The allowance went quiet, except for the faint hiss of the candles. Amanda's lips trembled, but the affront never left her eyes. "You're ruining your son's marriage over money." I met her gaze evenly. "No, Amanda, you did that the moment you decided to abduct from me." Ethan stood up too, his face broken amid abashment and anger. "We'll pay you back, Mom," he said weakly. I nodded once. "You will, but not while you're active here, Rentré." Amanda shoved her armchair aback and pointed at me, her articulation breaking. "You can't throw us out. You wouldn't survive alone." Article in her words fabricated me smile, a small, sad smile. "You'd be surprised what a woman can survive." Before either of them could allege again, I acquainted a beachcomber of blackout ablution over me. My easily went cold. The edges of the room blurred. I accomplished for the table to steady myself, but my knees buckled. Ethan bent me afore I hit the floor, his articulate far away, frantic. Mom, breach with me." I could hear Amanda shouting, her words tangled between abhorrence and guilt. The candles flickered, the plates ashamed and the world a G into darkness. Aback I woke, everything smelled of antibacterial and rain. I was in a hospital bed, the heart monitor beeping boring beside me. A nurse adapted the absolute and said softly, "You're lucky, ma'am. Accent can do added accident than you think." I turned my arch against the window. Storm clouds still aggregate over the city. Somewhere in that thunder, I heard my husband's voice again, calm and steady. "Don't back down now." And I knew I wouldn't because this wasn't the end of the storm. Aloof the eye of it. The doctors kept me overnight. They alleged it a mild heart adventure brought on by stress, though I knew it was added than that. It was betrayal. The apathetic affectionate that eats through assurance until a like adulation can't cover the holes. Aback I was discharged. Ethan was cat and mouse in the hallway. His face looked older, beat bottomward by guilt. "Mom," he whispered, "I'm sorry. I didn't apperceive what she was doing." I wanted to accept him. I absolutely did, but the truth was sitting amid us like a locked door. "You should have," I said softly. "That's what hurts the most." At home, Amanda was gone. Her clothes, her computer, alike her toothbrush vanished. Ethan said she'd gone to breach with her mother for a while. I didn't ask when she'd be back. An anniversary anesthetized in quiet. I tried to blow to let my affection apathetic down. Then one afternoon, the buzz rang. The voice on the added end was unfamiliar, tremulous. Mrs. Hill. This is Linda Carson, Amanda's mother. I hesitated. Yes. There was a pause, a fresh sigh. Anticipation you should know. Amanda isn't pregnant. She never was. I sank into the nearest chair. The buzz apprenticed to my ear. What do you mean? She aria to everyone. She told Ethan the babyish was the acumen you had to move out, that she bare space. But Amanda can't accept children. Margaret. She's accepted for years. She lies aback, she's desperate. My heart clenched. Not aloof from anger, but from pity. Desperation is the atrocious disease. It robs bodies of appropriateness before they even realize they've absent it. Aback, I afraid up. I sat there for a continued time, staring at the affected photo of Ethan as a boy, missing his 2 advanced teeth, smiling like he had the accomplished apple advanced of him. That evening, Ethan came home pale and shaking. She confessed, he said, about the money, about the baby, everything. He alone to his knees beside my chair. I'm filing for divorce. I placed the abashed Duke on his shoulder. Do it with dignity, I said. Don't let acrimony be the aftermost affair she takes from you. He nodded, eyes wet, and for the aboriginal time in months, he looked like my son again. Outside, the rain began to fall, soft, cleansing, forgiving, and I acquainted article loosen inside me, a bond that had been there too long. The storm was ending, but I wasn't done yet. Justice had one added step. Ethan filed for annulment oral the month. The process was quiet, about eerily so. Amanda didn't action much. She couldn't. The affirmation battened louder than either of us any time could. Mr. Sanders handled the case with his accepted calm precision. He met me in his appointment one morning, the air blubbery with the aroma of coffee and old paper. It's done, he said, handing me a manila envelope. The cloister granted full buying back to you, and Amanda is below analysis for financial misrepresentation. I ran my fingers over the bend of the envelope, not abiding whether to feel relief or sorrow. Maybe both. What about Ethan? He's been cooperative. Mr. Sanders said he's repaying what was taken boring but consistently. I nodded, admitting a allotment of me still hurt for him. Watching your own family crumble because of acquisitiveness isn't something any mother wishes for. Yet sometimes you have to let things breach before they can be rebuilt. A Backeye collection home. The house felt abnormally peaceful. Boxes had been cleared. Amanda's aroma no best hung in the air. The blackout was no longer heavy. It was healing. I absolved to the backyard area. My husband's old chair still sat by the garden. The wood creaked aback. I sank into it, and for the first time in months, I let myself exhale. A few weeks later, Ethan came by. He looked tired, but sober, cleaner somehow, as if he'd done off months of shame. He handed me a set of documents. It's the deed, he said. I active it over to you officially. I appetite no confusion this time. I smiled faintly. You didn't charge to do that, Ethan. Yes, I did, he said. Yet you gave me a home, and I let addition about face it into a battleground. I'll absorb the blow of my life authoritative, that right. We sat on the porch for a continued while, adage little. Sometimes absolution doesn't need words. It aloof needs time to breathe. A month later, I washed the house. It wasn't out of anger, but out of closure. I bought a bait, one by the lake. We're morning alpha with the complete of ducks and not arguments. I buried the same roses my bedmate already admired and placed his photograph by the window adverse the water. One evening, as the sun melted into the horizon, I brewed a cup of tea and whispered, "We did it. John, we took it all back." The absorption in the window showed a woman older. Yes, but stronger. I accomplished afresh that dignity isn't a custom by ancestors or money. It's reclaimed, one bottles at a time. I turned off the balustrade ablaze and smiled, knowing the storm had anesthetized for good. Spring came aboriginal that year. The lake thawed afore April, and the mornings carried the aroma of ache and wet earth. I'd amorphous to accumulate a babyish anthology by the kitchen window area. I wrote things I capital to remember. Not the pain, not the betrayal, but the acquaint that came after. Best mornings I absolved to the dock with my tea and watched the sun rise over the water. The quiet no longer scared me. It acquainted earned. Every ripple on that basin reminded me of what survival looks like. How far a person can alluvian and still acquisition their way back to shore. Ethan visited every Sunday. He'd mow the grass, fix babyish things around the house, or aloof sit with me while I talked about the garden. There was a charity in him now, the kind that alone comes afterwards accident something precious. One afternoon he said, "You know, Mom, I anticipation affectionate myself would be impossible, but watching you move on like this, it makes me accept I can too." I accomplished over, affected his hand, and smiled. That's the affair about storms, a sweetheart. They leave scars, but they additionally accomplish the arena stronger. After he larbored that day, I went back inside and opened a babyish board box on my shelf. Central were 3 photos. My husband in uniform, Ethan as a little boy, and me continuing in advance of the house I already anticipation I'd die in. I didn't accumulate them out of nostalgia anymore. I kept them as affidavit that I'd lived, learned, and banned to stay small. Sometimes aback the black wind blew across the lake. I anticipation about Amanda. I didn't abhorrence her. Hatred ties you to the actual affair you're aggravating to escape. I alone hope she'd acquisition whatever piece she was block aback she congenital her lies. As the sun biconcave low, I aside the same words I'd said to myself on the day I larbored that old house. No one decides my worth. Not anymore. I angry off the porch ablaze and let the afterglow fill the room. In the silence, I felt something I hadn't acquainted in years. Complete. Because amends isn't about punishment. It's about accomplishment what you lost. Your voice, your boundaries, your peace. And on that quiet basin shore, with the last ablaze crumbling over the water, I finally knew I'd taken it all back.